Okay. Let's get us started. All right, thanks guys. Thanks for coming to our monthly meeting of Gameaholics Anonymous. Please, everyone give a warm welcome to our newest member, Naiwa.
Hey everyone, I'm here at Gamification Anonymous, and I'm really nervous today because, as you can see, my hairstyle has changed. I am shocked and scared, and my hair turned white, but that's because of the pandemic. So my name is Nai, and I am a gameaholic. I admit it freely, yes, I am a gameaholic. It hurts me to say. I was 2 years sober, but something happened, the pandemic. We're all locked inside, and what else can you do but play video games, right? So, here I am to talk to you this morning about video games, video game addiction, and how you can incorporate video games into the classroom. But I also want to introduce Dr. Nikki Mohan, who came in here direct from New Zealand. So she is a scholar, a researcher, and an author, so she'll be adding some legitimacy to my speech this morning. And we will be giving away two books which will, about gamification and gaming in the classroom as well. So that's going to be a special prize for today. So, we'd like to see an agenda, kind of see what's coming through here. So we're going to talk about the video game industry, because the industry is really what drives the entire movement. And I'm going to show you that it's not going to stop anytime soon. Then, how it affects education, because there's a direct correlation to that. All right, and then we're going to see how I did a gamification project in math education, which was highly successful. So you can see it actually in action and the potential of what it brings in the classroom. Then we're going to we're going to take a moment to understand the mind of a student and a gamer. And because building that bridge is over half the battle, because these little rugrats running around, they're not just aliens, they're actually a way to communicate with them. And then, what about AI? What is this whole AI thing? In the past 6 months, or a little longer, AI has just kind of upended everything. Anybody here attended any other AI sessions here? Have they been mind-blowing? More or less? Okay. Well, hopefully I'll be able to shed some light on that. So I'm going to touch on that as well as it pertains to gamification and give you some practical tips on how to use AI in that sense. So moving on to strategies and practices, and we're going to hopefully have 10 minutes for Q&A, but please feel free to raise your hand if you have any questions, and I may or may not call on you. All right, excellent. So prepare yourselves to crank it up to 11. No one remembers that reference? Okay. It's still too early, right? Let's go to warp speed. Live long and prosper. All right, let's take it to ludicrous speed. Any Spaceball references? No. Okay, there we go. Spaceballs. What you're about to experience is a brain dump. So I'm going to dump what's in here in the next 55 minutes into your brain, because we're going to go over a whole lot of information, so much so that one of the attendees at the Making Schools Works conference came up to me and said, I just took 20 pages of notes from your session. I'm like, how the heck did you do that? Like, did you write in longhand and giant script? No, actually, it was actually very tidy and good. Because there's so much information I'm going to convey to you. Because what my job here is to kind of open the door and unlock your mind in a way that you could connect to your students more effectively and through the use of video games. So, a little bit about myself. As you can see, I look pretty young. So why am I qualified here to talk to you about video games and education and how it affects our kids? Well, first off, I have a disadvantage in the education system. I was first made in Taiwan. Okay, you guys are allowed to laugh, okay? Okay, I know it's not PC, but yeah, I was made in Taiwan, and after I ripened at the tender age of 2, I was exported here to the United States with my parents, of course, where we had to do one of the typical things of an immigrant family, open up a Chinese restaurant. So I grew up in that restaurant, toiled in it for my entire young adult life. And I had some challenges. English was a second language, so my primary language was Chinese, Mandarin. And I had a lot of reading problems because I was kind of like mixed between the two cultures here and there. So because of that, I also had another problem called ADHD. Anybody know any kids with ADHD? Anybody here have ADHD? Raise your hands. Be proud, be proud. Yes, yes. Because that's one of the things, it's like, we have so much energy. We just don't know how to channel it, but there are ways to channel it. So because of that, I failed at math class. Now, I'm Asian. Failing a math class does not compute, right? That's not because I was not good at math. In fact, I went on to college and took Calc 2, even though I didn't need to because I had a Bachelor of Arts degree in psychology. but I did that because I was able to do that. But when I was in class in school, the teachers were going so slow, I just became disengaged. It was so boring to me that I just didn't react or respond. It was not engaging for me. So because of that, I had to, because we grew up in a Chinese restaurant, we didn't have very much money. My parents couldn't afford to take me to a psychiatrist, so I had to deal with my problems naturally and not chemically, so they didn't put me on any medicine. Boy, were they sorry about that. But my disadvantages turned into something else. I realized that I have superpowers. So those of you with ADHD, you guys have superpowers. Right? Do you feel that way sometimes? Yes? Yeah, okay. So what it means is that this disadvantage is now one of my biggest strengths. I was able to pay attention to things so much more, in so many different ways that my peers could not. And it was actually became more and more evident as I got older and my peers were aging at the same rate. So I have heightened senses. Something that we talk about is multitasking. As we know, multitasking actually does not exist, but we can actually split our attention and actually focus on more things. So it led me to something I call a multi-point perception. Because in video games, so many things happen. And you have to pay attention to all this data and statistics and information being passed to you, that if you are not able to comprehend and process that information, you will not be very good at certain video games. So, of course, blinding myself to video games, so I love playing video games, call my attention. Then I'm like, hey, I love video games, why don't I learn how to make video games? So I taught myself programming, and then which led me to get into computer-based training, e-learning, and I gamified the world's first culinary arts curriculum that was all multimedia-based, and this was like 20 years ago. I think way back when I was like 5 years old. I'm just kidding. And then led myself to build the Math Fluency Project, and then today, this year, we launched a new initiative where we took the technology that was developed for all the things that we've done and put it in the hands of teachers called KP Pub U, where then teachers would actually craft engaging lessons in the platform and also become published authors. And better, what's the best thing about that? They can get paid. So if you're interested in that, come see me. We actually have flyers up here on stage if you'd like to pick that up. So that's me. So we live in a world of instant gratification. I love this video.
Okay, we're going to stick this in here, and then I'm going to pour in the milk. I hope this works because I didn't bring a change of pants.
Look, I Googled it. It's a fake picture. That's it. No cake for you. Anyone else want to join the no cake club?
Just kidding, boys and girls. Everyone gets cake.
Not him.
Who doesn't love a bunch of nerds, geeks, and astrophysicists and scientists TV show? I love Big Bang Theory. But even though this clip was taken a long time ago, and a little dated now because it now should say, instead of I Google it, I chatbotted it, right? But the thing is, like, these kids are growing up in a world where they never knew the struggles that we had to get information, right? Back in the day, we used to have to go to this thing called what's that? Library, where we had to go use the, what system? Dewey Decimal System to try to find a stupid book that I had to do a research paper on. Or even worse, you're in university and you had to look up some articles, and you had to go into stacks, and you had to go and use this like device to read this what? Microfiche, yes. Anybody not know what a microfiche in here? I know you're not going to admit it, millennial. But the thing is, like, we had to struggle to get to information, and now it's in the palm of our hands. And that is the expectation of all these students growing up. And in fact, it's going to be transformed in such a way that even now with AI, we're going to have artificial intelligence curated content. So they're not even going to have to go to Google and look through articles and try to discern which one is the best one. Now with AI, we are kind of assuming that this is the compilation of the best of the best. And so far, it's kind of mind-blowing that it is doing that. But we still have to have our brains to be able to understand that some information may be false information, some information may be a little skewed, but those are all the skills that we have to teach our kids moving on to the future, because it's not about information gathering, it's about information discernment. So, they don't have to do that anymore. What do we do now? So let's look at video games. Where did it all begin? With something like this. Very basic, very simple. Our primitive brains could only comprehend that back in the day. But as the years came on, the video games became more and more complex to be more scenario-based, to be more speed-based, to be more engaging with storytelling, with fighting, so you're reacting with other components to, Sonic Hedgehog, where you have this little hedgehog running around through the screen at 1,000,000 miles per hour. And at the time, it was challenging these kids because they had the energy and the excitement to be able to do that. But as adults, we were looking and going, how's the hedgehog going through? I can't comprehend it because we never built those muscles. To now we have augmented reality, virtual reality with Pokemon Go. Anybody here play Pokemon Go? All right. It's been fun playing Pokemon Go around here. To now with 2020 with the release of the Oculus Quest 2, making virtual reality something that's attainable by the masses. Excuse me, got a little coffee. So I'm going to start off this. Anybody here start off playing arcade games? All right, we have some classics in here. Anybody here started only playing with consoles? Okay, now you started playing video games on PCs. Okay, any PC gamers in here? All right. All right, how about portable gamers like Game Boy and all that kind of stuff? Okay, great. Oops, dang it. Smartphones. Now these game devices, we see the progression of having to go to a restaurant or a smoking bar to play video games to at home, to turning these business productivity machines to making it in your hands, and now every single device can be a video game. All right, anybody here VR yet? Okay, a handful. Isn't it a game changer as far as how you engage with the content now? And anybody here play Solitaire, Words with Friends, Wordle? Okay, you all are gamers, so you got to think anything that involves games makes you a gamer because it engages the same exact psychology and dopamine responses. So I'm going to spend a minute here to talk about passive and active entertainment. So we got to think about this. When most of us were younger, we were taught that, hey, in order to be disciplined, or our parents were so busy that they sit us in front of the television to keep us entertained. So at a very young age, we learned, okay, I'm going to sit in front of this TV, I'm going to watch my favorite cartoon characters, and they're going to tell a story at me. So that in turn trains them to go, okay, I'm here to sit and absorb the information passively as something is being doled out to me. And when they go to school, the teacher's up front lecturing, then they go, okay, well, that makes sense, because at home when I was younger, I used to sit, be quiet, and take the information thus. But then when video games came out, that paradigm shifted. So instead of being passively told the information and being entertained by these cartoon characters which you grow to love and become attached to, now we're being attached to video game characters like Mario. Who doesn't love Mario? I love Mario. Raise your hand if you love Mario. All right. Because these characters now are a part of your life, a part of your storytelling. And you're making decisions as to how you want these characters to perform in a stage or a level or whatever. And then when they go to school, they sit in these nice neat rows and there's teachers lecturing at them. Now, all of a sudden, the form of entertainment does not match the form of education. And they're sitting there thinking, okay, well, I used to be able to make decisions and control the avatar and learn from failure, but now I lost that control. So because of that, we create disengagement, we create a gap, and that's when the kids fall asleep. So at this point, I want to bring up Nikki, who is going to talk a little bit about her expertise. So let's switch to your slide deck. And just advance pushing the speed button.
Okay, so I'm just going to take over from Nai talking about gaming and gamification. So gaming is just, what we don't want to do is be seen as just adopting the flavor of the month stuff. So anything new, we just want to adopt it to see as if we're progressive. So what I want to do is actually give you the research that underpins gaming and gamification, and also give it some academic rigor. So with this I designed this calling it the progression of thought and learning. And I created this because it's a visual summary of the ideas of some of the greatest educational thinkers of the last 150 years. And I wanted to illustrate this to show what thinking, to show our thinking and learning. So this is all the big thinkers and theorists, and you'll recognize some of them like Dewey, Montessori, and so on. I'm not going to name them, Maslow. And so let's set this progression against the taxonomy of thinking skills created by Benjamin Bloom and his group in, 1956. And it was Bloom who gave us the idea that there is a hierarchy of thought, and that runs from relatively straightforward low-level thinking to the higher levels of more complex cognitive functions. So let's see what these educational thinkers have had to say about instructional strategies and their effect on learning. So the least effective strategy for teaching is speaking, and that's exactly what I was saying. Teachers presenting information through spoken words. And this instructional approach means that students learn by listening. And this is an audio presentation of instructional content. And a more effective strategy would be combining the text with images in a visual presentation of all the material that you present. So this instructional approach means that students learn by seeing. And visual information is retained in the brain more easily, as you know. So especially for the digital generations, like playing video games and so on, has been raised in the graphical these kids who have been raised in this graphical online world, it's better for them to actually have the instruction that is visual, both visual and audio. But better still is an instructional approach that combines both audio and the visual presentation of information. And this means that students are listening and seeing the instructional material at the same time. And it is important to note that these three instructional strategies that I just outlined there occurs in schools most of the time, especially as students move into high school and beyond. So it's also important for us to note that all these kinds that I just outlined here fosters only lower levels of thinking and learning. And this has been verified at MIT. And this chart shows the summary of MIT study. And it shows the students' neural activity at different times of the day. And if you look closely, you'll note that the lowest levels of neural activity for students are when they are in the class. So what this says is that there's more thinking involved in doing chores and watching TV than there is listening to a lecture. Okay? So all of these three instructional strategies require very little cognitive work from students. So they're just sitting and listening means that students generally only are in the remembering and understanding and applying levels of thought. However, great educational minds have been consistently looking at teachers and imploring them to move beyond the traditional lecture demonstration style of teaching. And they have been encouraging this for more than 100 years, for over 100 years, as you would note from those theorists that we have there. What they have been saying is that a significant shift in approach is needed to foster the higher levels of thinking and learning. And it starts with a shift towards a more active role, as Nai was saying, for students. Instructional strategies that incorporate students discussing instructional material with teachers and other students. This means that students are interacting with others while they interact with the learning content. In terms of the taxonomy of thinking skills, students move into what we call the higher levels of analyzing and synthesizing. But even this is not the ultimate goal, because the ultimate goal is to shift instruction to engage students in real-world activities or simulations of those activities in a multisensory learning environment. So by doing this, students begin constructing their own knowledge and learning. And this moves students into the highest levels of thinking and learning, that is evaluating and creating. And in other words, teaching strategies that foster the lower levels of thinking and learning are more teacher-centered instruction strategies, where students receive the teaching from their teachers. And exactly what Nai said, this is what our theorists have said as well, which results in passive learning. While teaching strategies that foster the highest levels of thinking and learning make the shift to a more student-centered facilitation. And that results in students participating in learning activities, in which they take an active role in their learning. And this is a major point, point to take away from this progression, is that shift. So the progression moves from the lower levels of thinking to learning, where the instructional approach focuses on telling students things, to the higher levels of thinking and learning, where the instructional approach focuses on facilitation, so that students discover things on their own.
All right.
Okay, so that was just a brief, putting all this 150 years of theories together.
Thank you very much for that brief overview. Everyone give a round of applause for Dr. Yuki. Thank you. So, with that being said, let's move on to our next segment. Oops, I forgot to switch the mode because I do. Where's that camera? Okay, so now let's go ahead and talk about video game addiction, because I want to briefly touch on that because we got to realize that video games are addictive, because the WHO finally in 2018 admitted that video game addiction is real. It's not just something made up. It's like, oh, I'm addicted to video games. I am addicted to video games. There's certain games I cannot touch because I know once I start playing them, there's going to be no end in sight. I'm not going to eat for a week. I'm not going to bathe. It just happens. It really does. Like World of Warcraft, for one thing, or Civilization. Anybody here want to do one more turn? Yes. I know. So anyway, why is it so addicting? Because it's a temporary escape. It's social and anonymous, so you can be social and be anonymous at the same time. It presents challenges and goals, but the most important thing that we as educators can use is that constant measurable growth. That component is what kids crave for. They want that constant progression, that status bar, those points, those coins. So, everyone here watch Ready Player One? The whole entire, I'm not going to show this clip, but we all know that the virtual reality world will change, and AR and VR is actually going to be the future of education. And we're starting to see a lot of movement towards that, especially with the Meta Quest 3 coming out this next year. It's just going to keep advancing, so it'll provide even more education opportunities to be able to do simulations and actually get some higher level learning from that. So let's talk about the Maslow's hierarchy of gaming needs. So let's look at one of the things that it brings is that it brings the students a sense of belonging through social interactions. It gives them self-esteem through overcoming challenges. And it creates self-actualization through contributing to a living world. All these things are what makes video games addicting and something that they strive to constantly go to all the time. So, this session is being filmed, and I'm going to have handouts and other information. So if you would like to go to this website, it's just a simple Google form that says, who are you, what session did you attend, and would you like a copy of this video and other presentations I've given. Also, we're going to be building a AI course that uses advanced AI techniques. So everyone's kind of covering the basics. Yeah, you can create lessons, you can write essays, blah, 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 boring stuff. We want to take it to the next level. So we're actually building a sophisticated course that uses more complex prompts so it'll get you the information. So we're going to be finishing that up in the next few weeks, and then you'll get that information as well once we finish that project. So KP, and so what does KP stand for? Well, that's my company, Knowledge and Practice. Anyway, so video games are a multi-billion-dollar industry. And the reason I bring this up is because where the money flows, that's where all the attention goes. And as we all probably know, the internet was not built by Al Gore, it was built by porn, right? So now it's video games. Video games have surpassed everything. In fact, in 2015, Super Bowl aired an ad for a video game called Clash of Clans. I'm like, this is a stupid little mobile game that's free. Why is it on the Super Bowl ads? Because, for one thing, it makes a lot of money. Well, it makes $5,573,000 something, this is back then, dollars. But this is calculated per day for a free mobile game. So you gotta think that these games are making a ton of money just by getting you engaged. And it's free, but hey, you're impatient. Why not pay $1 to rush your tower to upgrade? Why not pay $2 to give yourself an enhancement? Why not pay $5 to give yourself a boost? So the video game industry is a $200 billion industry as compared to the movie industry, $41 billion. This is pre-pandemic numbers. So you gotta think the movie industry is huge. No, the video game industry is 4 times bigger. In fact, growing exponentially in a way. Not exponentially, sorry. Logarithmically? But you can see how 2012, the mobile industry was only 18%, now it's 59% of $180 billion for 2021, and it projected 2022 even higher. So my job here is to build empathy for these kids who are coming into this world, not knowing how to get information, not knowing how to work for information, but being addicted to these games on their mobile devices, on their handhelds, on their consoles, in their VR world. Because the more you know about these young kids in grade school, middle school, high school, and college, the more you know. Old school reference, I see some grins here. Okay, millennials, you don't know what this is all about. But I love this one. Oops.
And knowing is half the battle.
Yeah! It's my youth. So, anyway, so G.I. Joe, knowing is half the battle. So one of the things is like, because these video games are bombarding the kids with all this extra stimuli, it's expanding their mind capacity. So like when I said earlier, I realized I had a superpower because I'm able to comprehend so much more than my peers. My peers were all linear based, they could only focus on one thing at a time. If you distract them, they all become derailed, and they become like all aggravated because you've taken them out of their focus zone or their concentration. But for me, I don't have that issue, which is a good thing and a bad thing. So let's look at this video here. This is a popular game called Overwatch. And I'm going to show you a brief clip about this game in a very intense firefight. So as you can see here, we got guns, we got stuff going on, and we got more stuff going on. Oh, something just happened. And we got, okay, so raise your hand. Who here is overwhelmed? Okay. Oh, wait, so you're not overwhelmed? You're not overwhelmed? Okay, so you got, okay, well, tell me what's going on. So one of the things is like, during this battle, things are going on. So you see that everyone's usually focused on the center of the screen. Obviously, that's where you're shooting at. But then on top of that, we have other data going on. So up here, we have our teammates. So we can see how our teammates are doing. So based on that, I can make a decision to push forward or to pull back. Because if we're doing poorly, then I'll retreat and regroup. If we're doing good, we're going to push forward. So you can see that the enemy is down. So now this is a good opportunity to advance and attack. We can see here we have this, what we call a contention zone. So we're actually trying to hold on to a spot to gain this, this flag, I guess, to then move on to the next zone. So basically we're kind of capturing the flag in this spot. And then we have like data here, like who's eliminated, who's taken who out over here. Then we have our own personal stats here, like our shield meter, how many bullets we have in our weapon. This is our ultimate power meter, so once this fills, I can use my ultimate power. And then we have our specials here. So these specials can only be used once in a while, so when I use it, it has to, what we call a cooldown, so we use it, you have to wait 10 seconds to be able to use it again. So all this information is being flowed to the individual while they're playing this game. And the really good players can comprehend all the information at once. I can probably comprehend, because I didn't grow up in this age, about 60% of this information effectively. So I cannot play at their level. I'm too old for this, believe it or not. But you can see, like, if you focus on just the center, that's just one tiny portion of the information that's required to be able to effectively play this game. And these kids are amazingly great at dealing with this information. So, are we meeting them at their level? No, we're not anywhere close. But our job isn't to do that, to create that similar circumstance. Our job is to start tapping into the elements that will start holding their attention and pulling them forward. So I want to show you the example of the math fluency project, where basically we went and did an experiment with fourth graders. And we asked them all in the class, what's 5 plus 4? Everyone knows the answer is 9, but for them, they had to do this. They had to take time to properly count on their fingers to then, with confidence, say 9. Some of them might have known it, but they lacked confidence. So this is a school in South Phoenix where it was the highest crime, highest poverty. We wanted to pick like one of the most challenging schools around. And we got them to agree to let us experiment with them on this math program, where basically the challenge is, you do this exercise for 15 minutes a day, and you have 1 minute to answer as many questions as you can per round. So in a given day, you can probably do 10, maybe 11 rounds. So here's one of our top players. And this is just a couple months later. And from not being able to add 5 plus 4, they can do this now. Isn't that amazing? But the challenge is, before this, we couldn't even get them to answer 1 or 2 math problems because it was boring. But we gamified it in such a way that now they're actively engaged and they want to answer math problems. So obviously, he didn't start here. He started at 0 plus 0, 0 plus 1. They added within 5. And then we slowly advanced them as they showed fluency by creating automaticity. And that, in turn, led them to build confidence. So this is at a higher level, so I'm just going to fast forward. You can see that now we're doing complicated equations, and I'm just going to go to this one where this is really where, like, you see a transformation.
My name is Ryan. I'm fourth generation. I have 209,000 points and 17,353 questions.
Okay, let's do it.
So you see that now these kids went from I hate math to now I love it. Now you can see it at a higher level, slower, but still doing really well at comprehending like word problems, word type problems, and other things like that. So the trick to that is like getting them to answer a lot of math problems, because anything you know to get good at, you have to practice. But getting kids to practice or remediate is very difficult. So we get reactions like this.
Do you guys want to go home? No! Do you want to keep playing?
I never liked math, but they did it to a video game.
Yeah.
So what's confusing to me is like, did that look like a video game to you? No. But if you take all the psychological elements of a video game, you can make it feel like a video game. So we can make education feel like a video game without making it into a video game. And that's what I'm trying to point out, is that we don't have to make video games. So one of the elements we add is a leaderboard, is a scoreboard. So the class has a goal, and they have 15 minutes to achieve that goal. And you can see that they pay attention to this line so much. It's like they're absorbed by it. Like one day, the line was not working, and we can see them just start to fall apart because they're so drawn to that line. Not only that, but we also have the individual lines. So this is the leaderboard that's also shown on the screen. So every kid has their own track. But you see a few of them are falling behind. That's because they hit a new level, so that means that the teacher should go and intervene and do real-time RTI. So all these things drive the students to gain higher levels of achievements. And so far from what we've seen, we haven't seen any negative impacts from the leaderboard because everyone is driven by that sense to achieve. Why? Because of video games. So I'm just going to skip these because these are high school kids and the other teachers doing testimonials. But if you want to learn more about the Math Fluency Project, or if you know a math teacher, I'm doing a session that's going to talk about the research and go through the science of it at 1 o'clock. So at Coastal 3, which is probably the other side of this hall. Excuse me. All right, moving on. So one of the key things is that it's very important is to know their language. So one of the things that really speaks to the kids is like the term grinding or farming. So anybody here know what grinding or farming means? Of course you do, and I know you do. But I'm going to hear from her. What does it mean? Oh, I know, I'm putting you on the spot. Yes, exactly. It's basically like that. So basically, you're grinding to grind out like a level or grind out a stat or something like that. So you're doing something over and over again to get that goal. So for instance, I'll just use this really old game called EverQuest. You might remember that. No. So basically, one of the stats is like I wanted to improve my fishing. So I had to go take my avatar to a fishing hole and then hit the fishing button. And then after about 10 minutes, I make it to level 1. Yay! Then I have to do this again repetitively for about another 30 minutes. Then I get to level 2. Then the next level is going to take me 2 hours. So I'm just sitting here hitting the fishing button. Boy, is this so much fun. Isn't this fun? Oh my gosh, this is the best time of my life. Right? I'm like hitting the fishing button and catching more fish. And then once I get to level 10, I caught enough fish and I got enough level that I could take it to the fishmonger and trade it for a rainbow trout, which then I could use to catch a much more desirable animal, and then I can upgrade my fishing rod and all these different things. But now, after going through 10 hours of boring fishing, I have this ultimate golden fishing rod, which I can use to catch the leviathan, so to speak. So that's what basically the essence of grinding is. It's like you're just doing this to get to a certain spot. We have to grind it out. In fact, Steve, I'm going to pick on you and just kind of tell a little story about when you use that term, how did your kids react?
Yeah, so I'm a CPE teacher, so we do a lot of projects, right? And that's why my kids want to take my class, and that's why they want to do projects. So, but like you have to teach them how to build the project or how to do the project. So a lot of times they know, okay, we got to get the lesson, and then sometimes their heads are down, and I noticed that in the past. And then, like, I obviously attended something like this last year, and I just said the word grind, and I said, guys, we're going to have to grind today. And the amount of heads that came up and looked at me, and it's like, they understood what I was telling them. They understood that, hey, listen, we're basically grinding. You want to build this fun machine that we're about to do, but we got to spend today and tomorrow grinding so that you're able to do it. And, had like six cents. And there's a couple other buzzwords, but I don't use every single word, but you just need to find the words that work for you with your students and your,
Yes, thank you, Steve, for that anecdote. Because like once you are able to speak their language, it's like you went to a foreign country and all of a sudden you said something right, and all of a sudden the locals like go, oh yeah, you're cool, or you're sway, or whatever the current vernacular is now. So noob is another one, and what noob stands for is a newbie. So if you're playing a video game and you're kind of stumbling through it, they call you a noob, which is derogatory, but also a sentiment of caring, because everyone knows that they all had to be a noob too. So and a lot of people actually will help noobs to get to a higher level. So it has both connotations. Speedrun, which is also another term that a lot of kids are used to because there's a lot of speedrun videos. I would suggest you go to YouTube to see some speedrun videos. It's absolutely amazing. So let's say one of the popular ones is Mario. So you're doing Mario World 3 level 7, and you see a kid go through it in like 3 minutes and 58 seconds, and then they are challenged by that fact that their friend is doing it in 3 minutes and 42 seconds. So I'm going to do it and work on that level. Even though the level is exactly the same, nothing changes, they're doing it to improve their stats and getting what we call buffs So they're buffing their, it's another term, it's basically to buff your stats so you get like these power-ups and stuff like that. But their power-up is the ability to understand that the level that they're going through, they could make these little minor tweaks and changes to shave off a millisecond, a microsecond, to then improve their time. Just like what an athlete would do, right? So these gamers are now athletes. So, and then the last one is perfectionist or 100%er, which the video game industry is really crafting a lot of these people. So we've always had perfectionists, but now we have a onslaught perfectionist because their value and worth is now defined by these video games and how many achievements they get. So this is a very popular term as well. So I would say this one and this one are probably the most effective. This one, just so you understand what that means, and these other ones are more outliers. Okay, so when I describe grinding, they all sounded to us like remediation, right? So we're grinding out the level, we're grinding out the content, we're trying to learn it, we're remediating, we're repeating the tasks over again, we're seeing incremental growth as the little nuances of seeing that you're getting better, we're getting minor rewards so that we can get to the end major goal. So now, I also want you to understand that there's dozens of game genres out there, and every single game genre caters to a certain personality type. So one of the most popular ones that everyone's heard of is called FPS, which stands for first person shooter, which is like the ones where you have a gun and you're shooting at somebody, like the one I just showed you, Overwatch. Those are the most popular because those are really engaging and fast action paced. Like, so we have Fortnite, everyone's heard of Fortnite, Halo, Call of Duty, Grand Theft Auto, Overwatch. So those games are very popular. And as we know, and as we see in the media, video games lead to violence, right? You see all the negative press, like, all the mass shootings that are happening across the country at schools. So we think that these kids who play these games are bullies, they're vindictive, they have these negative traits. But I want to flip the coin on the other side and think about all the positive things that come from playing these games. They're really adaptive because in these games, these situation changes constantly. You have to look at the information, so they have to adapt. They have to be perceptive, like I showed in the video. You have to see all the things going on. They're a team player. You can never win if you're not part of a team, unless you're Fortnite, but that's the exception. And you have to have very fast reactions. So one other one, I'm not going through all 12 of them, but we have like MMORPG, which stands for massively multiplayer role-playing game. So these are online environments where you're part of a world and you're doing stuff as part of the world and you can team up with other people. And usually thinking of these kids as like, basement level, like they're sitting there playing these games and being quiet and passive and antisocial and being recluse. But then on the flip side, these kids are actually very engaged. They have to be very social because it's part of the world. They have to be team players. They have to have a good sense of economics because everything that you earn has a value. And if, in some games, if you take the item and take it to another world, they'll be worth more. So you can do trading, you can do economics. There's like Eve is actually a very sophisticated economic simulator that some people are gravitating towards. And they have to be really good at decision making. So there's other ones like this, and based on the game that they play, it actually caters to a certain desire and personality type, which goes to the Myers-Briggs of gaming. So everyone knows about Myers-Briggs. Everyone has taken the Myers-Briggs test. I myself am an ENTJ. So, I'm sorry, INTJ. Sorry, I'm INTJ so because I am introverted, believe it or not. But there's a great website called GameTree, which actually transposes the Myers-Briggs test into video games. So, according to this, I am a visionary mastermind. Blah. So I like certain types of games that involve that style. And if you go to the website, it has a profile for each person. So if you do have them take the Myers-Briggs test and you find out what they do, what they are, then if you look at the profile, then you can start to see what kind of games they like. But not only that, but it gives you tips on like how you can be friends and work together with an INTJ. So it gives you tips as to how to game together. And in turn, it gives you tips on how to work together on projects so that you can start pairing people up more effectively if you want to use that as a strategy. So the website's really comprehensive. I won't go into it right now. But the other one is that's very good and very useful is the Quantum Foundry. So if you go to this website and you have your kids answer a bunch of questions about what kind of video games they play, it'll give you a profile. So quanticfoundry.com. Okay, I'll give you a second. And what it does is it kind of gives you like what kind of profile you are. It gives you a classification. So, like if you be like when I did this workshop a couple of days ago and I had teachers go through this exercise, which only takes about 5 minutes. A good portion of them came out as gardeners. Well, gardeners are like games that are nurturing and responsive, and you're growing stuff. What does that sound like? A teacher, right? And we had a couple berserkers. We had some action people, but for the most part, you can kind of tell the personality. And so this is just another thing that you could use in your war chest of analysis tools that are related to video games. And actually, I'm going to pick on you again, Steve, because I'm going to pick on you two more times. What was their reaction when you had them do this on your?
They did. I mentioned in my class I did a personality test, but I decided to change it to do this instead. And normally, you have those. Just like everyone, I have 30 kids in my class. You always have a handful of kids that you got to be over the head in your assignment and do a simple, first level day. Doing this assignment, everybody had it done by the end of class. I was able to use it because, like, for example, bards. I have a lot of bards in my classes. And bards are creative people. They're people who inspire and create outside gardeners. So then I start putting my groups together based on their personality. And they actually appreciate that.
And did it increase your cool factor?
Yes, also increased my cool factor.
Yeah, you got to buff up that cool factor, because we're in a very hostile environment. So any cool buffs that we could get, just like saying, hey, you don't want to do that, but or you got to grind that out. So let's talk about gamifying education. It's not creating a video game. Like I said earlier, it's not about creating a video game. It's using the psychological elements of that. So let's talk about the steps to gamification. This is just very broad, but there's a lot of resources online that will take you more in depth. But I just want to kind of expose you to this. So first, you got to know the audience. You got to define clear learning objectives, explain why. You got to structure the experience with the goal in mind. You got to create badges or rewards. Make an item shop so that when they're earning these rewards, they actually have something to do it with other than a pat on the back. And then you got to apply choice. So choice is also very important. So instead of just giving them, hey, you do this, you'll get this. If you can apply choice, say if you do this, you'll get this better reward or this other thing. Just like what we used to call extra credit. That'll give them more incentive to do it. Because all these things will give them a parallel to what they're experiencing in the video game world. So here's a book by, look at that, Nikki Wilhans here in Rand Chat that I would recommend reading. And since we're here at the book level, let's go ahead and ask a question. What is the most challenging thing that you have in the classroom when it pertains to student engagement? Anybody like to answer that? What is your biggest challenge? Anybody? All right, you, sir.
Just getting back to Brian, getting the students to read a little bit, offering him what to read before they do the project. And it's just talking there, I watch my kids play games or something. There is that team player and so forth. And I remember doing things on the league with exercises and different levels and all kinds of different sports. If we could put that into, I can imagine a classroom with about 25 of those boards that you're standing on, but you got to have some reading and some math computations other than just the exercise. So our kids need exercise. We don't have recess anymore. We don't have things where they're moving and getting strong where they're just using their thumb and fingers in a brain. But we need a whole lot.
Yeah, and VR is actually going to bring an aspect of that too. So yeah, that's very good. So you get a book. Yay! Yeah. See, we have a book on the screen. You answer my question, you get a book. There we go. That's engagement right there. Okay, now I'm going to show you a couple of examples of successful practices. So this is a guy I interviewed 3 years ago who actually created a very successful a gamified classroom for his math class in middle school, where basically he created a reward system where he had these cards which granted students special abilities, like this one which cost 1,200 points. With this power, a student has earned the right to snack during class. You spend 1,200 points to get that. They can't leave messages and are not allowed meals. So basically, it's just showing like, this is just a good example of reward structure. So you created these reward cards, and there's a variety of them, like with different point values, like 150 points, which will get them to get an extra item in a shop. You can turn this card in for a single late assignment. So now they have a choice. So they earn these points and they pick up these cards, and they have a decision to make. When do I want to use it? So like me, I would be classified as a hoarder. So I would purchase these cards and I would wait and wait and wait. And by the end of the semester or year, I'd be like, I've never used these cards. But I always felt like I had power because I always had these cards available. So he created this. So his name is, last name is Wood. So he would hand out these wood coins to these students and move on. So this is his example. Now this is another one, which is what I call the claw machine of Steve Laval, which is the guy I've been picking on all night, who attended my session last year. He's from Dutcher Creek Middle School in South Carolina, and he bought a claw machine. And this claw machine is actually an instrument of a reward system that he developed to help his students get rewards and to create better behavior. So this is the claw machine in his class, and what he did was he had the students use this machine as a tool to then decide on how we want to create a reward system. So he had the students do a research pitch, surveyed the 100 students in the class, and determined what kind of rewards they wanted to put in the machine. And then they access the machine by getting 5 shout-outs. And the shout-out is basically like, it's like, hey, you did a good thing. The teacher will give you a shout-out. So you're rewarding good behavior. And then the value proposition that the students said was that using the claw machine will reward students for good grades and good behavior. And because from that experiment, now the school is going to implement it school-wide. So instead of just this classroom, now we're gamifying the whole school. So I think that is the most amazing progression of taking a concept of gamifying a lesson to gamifying a classroom to gamifying a school. And I can't wait to see what you guys do next year and how that results happen. So now I'm going to spend the next 5 minutes, so we'll probably have only a couple minutes for Q&A, to kind of give you an example of how we gamify a lesson. So one of the things that I did during the workshop and as a thought experiment was how we use ChatGPT to kind of give us ideas. And we used a roller coaster project that Steve did, where his students created these roller coaster I don't know how to describe, like a project that was entered into a contest, and this one was the one that won the prize. And actually, this is the previous picture is when these two won the award, both from the same school. So, and there we go, there's Steve, pick on you again. So I'm gonna go over here and go to ChatGPT, and I know that everyone's like, finally, nice, talking about ChatGPT. I mean, honestly, I could do a whole hour on that, but I feel that giving you the foundation of gamification is really important because all this stuff you could do on your own. But remember, I'm just kind of going through a big, fast drive-by and exposing you to all these possibilities so that it'll open your eyes and open doors. So what we did was we asked ChatGPT, okay, well, the first thing we want to do is create a 45-minute lesson on building a model roller coaster using 5-8" marbles for 8th graders. So that's a very standard prompt, kind of asking ChatGPT to do that. So what it did was it created a lesson plan, 45 minutes, and all the different components for it. Then the next stage is let's turn this into a 4-week project. So then now we expanded a basic lesson. So we're kind of broadening it. So with ChatGPT, it's a conversation. So you start at one point, then you go to some other point, and you can narrow it down. So it is a lot of massaging of the idea. So here we go. So here's the tasks. And I could do this on real time, but it's easier to do this. Then I asked it a question, please gamify it, which was not the question to ask because gamify was not the term. Because so when we saw this response, it was like, okay, well, that didn't really do what we wanted to do. So then like, okay, apply gamification to this. So then that key term made it to the point where now we start to see gamification into it. So we can say level, so we see we have level unlock, expertise levels, challenge cards, design quests, so we can see that gamification language is now starting to be applied to the same project. And moving forward, so we have week 3, week 4, so now we apply some gamification processes. Then we asked it, like, you know, can you create a point system for it? And I even asked please, because I didn't want to piss off ChatGPT at this point. You know, you sometimes have to be nice, because sometimes it'll just spit out random stuff if you are really angry, make it angry. So now we can see here, we have, okay, a novice engineer, skill builders with 2,200 points, master craftsman, coaster, master. So you can see now, when you're in points, you'll get to a certain level. It's going to start creating challenge cards, material scavenger hunt, construction challenges, track expansion quests. So you can see that, you know, now these are just ideas that you could draw upon and say, oh, this is good, oh, this is not good, this will work. But as a starting point from nothing to something like this is one of the most amazing powers of AI, you know, giving you ideas of taking a simple project, or not simple, but a very sophisticated project, and then now creating gamification. And then I just asked a generic question, how would you improve this? So it just kind of gave me some ideas of scaling point values, bonus point opportunities, time-based challenges, collaboration points, quality evaluation, peer feedback. So a lot of really good stuff, right? And then lastly, we all love rubrics, so let's create a rubric. So here's a rubric. And obviously, you're not going to just take it for its value. You're going to take the best of the best, reprocess it, turn it into, make it your own. And then one of the cool things about ChatGPT is that you can actually ask it to crosswalk it or cross-reference it to a state standard. So TEKS is a very popular one, the Texas standards, and it's very widely published. Some states are not as widely published, so I've experimented with some other states, and it's harder for AI to figure out the correlation. We also use the South Dakota standards, and you can see that how it aligns to that. And last question we asked is, how many students would you put in the project? Just out of curiosity. And obviously it's 3 to 4, so.
That is the right answer.
Yes.
5 to 9.
Yeah. And then we say, hey, let's create a case study on this. So this is just kind of like examples of that. And I know when you go to those, like, you know, ChatGPT classes, sessions that other people are performing, they're probably doing like very surface level stuff, but there's so many more layers to it. It's like anything. You could learn something at a very surface level, you get a lot of stuff done. But the deeper you go, the more amazing it gets. Create a real world application for this. And then, like, oh, this is what I love, is that now let's tell this in the South, Peter Griffin. If anybody doesn't know who Peter Griffin is, it's a character in a popular cartoon show called Family Guy, which was created by the person, Matt Gorin, who created Simpsons. If you don't know what Simpsons is, what planet are you from? Anyway, so I just want to use this as an example. Then I said, okay, let's go back to the original question. So I circled the conversation back, and then I say, let's now create a lesson plan for it. So basically I went from this to this, and then back to the original lesson plan to see how it changed. And then create an outline. There you go. And I could do more and more. So that is AI as applied toward a project for the roller coaster, which then you can then use it in different pieces of it. So with that being said, we go back to the slide deck to finish off with the final slide, and then I hope you all enjoyed this because I had a great time showing you this. So I'm sorry that we ran out of questions, but if you need to contact me, if you signed up for that website. I'll contact you, send you an email, say, hey, here's the video, here's some resources, and here's the AI course material that we're creating. And hope you guys enjoyed it. Did you guys learn something today? Yes, thank you. And I hope you guys have a great rest of the conference, and I'll see you around. And if you're interested in the teacher collaboration publishing project that we have, I have a flyer up here, so you can just grab that right here on the stage. And please visit me at the booth in the marketplace. We have a booth right next to the SREB booth where we can talk about the publishing. And if you want to pick my brain on AI, we've been really diving into AI. So thanks again, and have yourself a great morning. Thank you for coming.